Hello, welcome to episode 38. I would like to talk today about happiness. And I want to start with a few sentences from Rupert Spira, who brings up a question, an age-old question. And I think the Course in Miracles answers it beautifully. So Rupert says, what about happiness? Can it be given and withdrawn? If so, by whom or what? What is the cause? What is its cause? Excuse me. Is it something that is taken in from the outside, or does it originate within us? Is there such a thing as lasting peace and happiness, or is this destined to alternate with suffering for the rest of our lives? Because in the ego's world, that's how it goes. We get the thing we want, we're having a good day, somebody says yes to us, and so instead of feeling lack, we feel fulfilled. And we go on, and there's certainly tons of suffering in this dualistic world. That's, in a way, the way we define happiness is the absence of suffering. That's what's true for many people, or the definition inside would be, I got what I wanted. I got the car, I got the house, I got the gal, I got the guy, I got the friend, got the purse, I got the garden, I got the success, I got the job, I got the money, got something. So I would like to turn to lesson 66. It's a wonderful lesson. I think for many years, there were a few words that threw me off. Probably the word function was the key word that made me maybe not resonate with the lesson as deeply as I am today. So let's read a little bit. Lesson 66, my happiness and my function are one. Let's just stick with happiness first. You've surely noticed an emphasis through our recent lessons on the connection between fulfilling your function and achieving happiness. This is because you do not really see the connection. I'm raising my hand. That one was a hard one for me. I think it is for a lot of people. And I'm not one of those people, and there are many that say, what, God, what is my purpose? Please tell me my purpose. It's just not been one of my big questions. And for many people it is. So this is actually a hard one for them. I think that the question may come from that egoic place. I guess most questions do. We're told that, and I have found that, and probably you have found that too. That it's who is asking the questions when we're asking questions. It is the ego. It says, this is because you do not really see the connection. Yet there is more than just a connection between them. They are the same. Oh my God, what does that mean? Their forms are different, but their content is completely one. Now you've got me. Let's read further. The ego does constant battle with the Holy Spirit on the fundamental question of what your function is. So does it do constant battle with the Holy Spirit about what your happiness is. Well, I have to say, even when I wasn't talking with the Holy Spirit, every day was about, am I going to get happy from the cake, or am I going to get happy from the shopping, or am I going to get happy because somebody thought I was great or somebody liked me? I mean, that was pretty much my life. I think until I became a therapist, and that was deeply gratifying because the work that I did was totally done by spirit. Somehow the psychotherapeutic technique, it's not a technique, it's an ethics question and part of our training, in a way to leave all your problems at the door. We're trained to come in and no matter what, leave what's going on for us and show up for the other person. Somehow, without acknowledging spirit to help me, I was able to do that, but it wasn't the I that did that. The ego can never do that. The I that is everlasting, the I that is the self with capital S, the I that is awareness, the I that is neutrality. That is what showed up in the psychotherapeutic room. So I was a vessel and I was intuitive, and whatever happens to me when I do the meditations, a different voice happens. I go to a different place, almost that I know more than I do when I'm Rosalind. That is a knowing place, not a knowing of concepts, but a oneness with all, that kind of knowing. So anyway, when I was a therapist, I had a vacation from this craziness of seeking happiness outside and going from one thing to the other. Well, let's go on reading. So let me just go back a second. So does it do constant battle with the Holy Spirit about what your happiness is? It is not a two-way battle. The ego attacks and the Holy Spirit does not respond. He knows what your function is. He knows that it is your happiness. My function is my happiness. Let's go on. Today we will try to go past this wholly meaningless battle and arrive at the truth about your function. We will not engage in senseless arguments. We will not become hopelessly involved in defining happiness and determining the means for achieving it. We will indulge the ego by listening to its attacks. We will not indulge the ego. We will merely be glad that we can find out what truth is. God gives me only happiness. He has given my function to me. Therefore, my function must be happiness. Then it says, try to see the logic in this sequence, even if you do not yet accept the conclusion. It's only the first two thoughts are wrong. The conclusion could be false. If only the first two are wrong, that's the only way the conclusion could be false. So let's look. God gives me only happiness. Well, what do you think? Is that 100% true? Let's dive deep. Everything we think is not happiness is of this world. You didn't get the job, the person didn't like you, You got bad results on a doctor's test. I got COVID recently. It was like, okay, got COVID. Get to stay home a couple of days. I get to be sick. Okay. Put on my pajamas, got cozy, started watching Netflix, things I don't watch generally. Said, okay. But Monday, I got really clear. This was a Saturday. I put on the altar something I had on Monday. I left it up to Spirit, but I gave the really clear intention that I had an offering on Monday, and a large group of people were signed up. And we had had an emotional meeting the time before where some people had breakdowns and there was healing, but it felt really important that we have this next meeting. It wasn't for me. I know people would be lovely if I said I had coded it and I had to cancel. It wasn't like, I wasn't scared or feeling like me, Rosalind, was going to miss anything. But I felt like I was to be there in love, like I had something that wanted to come through me, a transmission, something about the meeting before. And it was for the other people. It wasn't my breakdown. It wasn't, I know everyone is the same and we are each other. So in a sense, it was my breakdown. But it truly felt like that's where I was supposed to be on Monday. But if that was not the case, that was going to be okay too. And the COVID drugs were delivered, which, by the way, are miracle drugs. If you happen to get COVID, which is of the world, the drugs are of the world. And maybe you won't need them, but I'm just telling you, Paxlovid, if you're eligible for it, is a miracle. So by Monday, between the drugs and the clear intent and desire, and the fact that it was supposed to be, everything that is what is supposed to be, I was able to go and appear quite healthy, even though I'm still testing positive several days later. All is well, and I have COVID, and I don't have COVID. Depends on how you look at it. But going back to happiness, there were some really good examples about happiness there during COVID. There was so much liquid coming out, like a really bad cold, where you wipe and you wipe and you wipe, and then your upper lip and your mouth and your nose and this area here gets all rough and hurting. And if you had asked me what is happiness then, I would have said happiness is having my face healed so that it doesn't hurt so badly, even with Vaseline on it. But even then, there was a causeless joy in the area of my inside, the I of me that never changes. So the I that has always been you, that doesn't have a different age. if I tapped into that at any moment, taking the focus away from my raw face and tapping into causeless joy, not the joy or happiness from getting something, wasn't about the world. It's a joy that's always there, but only if I desire to find it. I believe that's what the Course means when they say choose once again. We're focusing on the outside, on getting. And so we're from the me, we're from the ego, we're from the persona. But there is a self, and there is an I that was never born and will never die. And is eternal. And we can call that the I and have a common language to refer to it. We know that me, as selfish, that narcissistic, that egoic part of ourselves, that hurts. It's the core, it's the cause of all suffering. Once again, we can quote the Course. We have only one problem, and that's a belief in separation. And then all the rest of this is our blocks to suffering. And Dove has done a beautiful job this week with a quote from Nuke Sanchez. And I can't do it justice from memory. Maybe I could find it, but let's see, should I find it? Maybe I will. Yeah. Just give me a second here. I will find it. Here it is. Let's see. Nuke quotes Nisargadatta. Let's see if I can read this. Okay. Oops. Doesn't want to open. Doesn't want to open. I guess I'm not supposed to do it. All right. It's okay. It has to do with what's the block to your happiness. And the block to the happiness is this self, that persona, not the self with a capital S, but the self that we made up, the self that doesn't exist. And how wonderful is that to realize it's that simple. Just let go of that imagined self. Let's do a little meditation. Let's take a breath together. The breath is of the body, but the breath is of life. The breath is given to us, and it's part of our function of living life and being the function of happiness. Now, why would happiness and function be the same? Well, God gives us only happiness. We started with that. All the junk that we feel causes pain, did not come from God. It's from the world of opposites, and the world of this persona that wants stuff and is out there trying to get it. And what else? What was the second part? The second part was lesson 65. I'm sorry, I'm a little disorganized here. I lost my paper here. Everything is just the way it's supposed to be. Here it is. It was lesson 66. Here it is, 66. God gives me only happiness. He's given my functions to me. Well, are we supposed to do anything in the world other than what life has given us? So I started out saying my breath is from God because life has given me that function. I'm not supposed to not breathe. I'm not supposed to occasionally breathe. I'm supposed to breathe regularly until I'm not, until life decides my time is over. And then I will go back to being whatever the I was before I was born. So my function is from God, and my happiness is from God. So it says, therefore, my function must be my happiness. That's pure algebra, isn't it? If this is true and this is true, then that must be true. Or this equals that. If this equals this and this equals that, then that must equal that. I remember all that. You could tell I wasn't a brilliant algebra student. If indeed it was algebra, it does sound like pure logic. So I love that. My function is a lot simpler than these fancy things I would like to make up, these egoic ideas. If we go where we're supposed to go, we say what we're supposed to say, we do what we're supposed to do, even without the notion of helping. I find that helping idea gets very distorted by the ego. People do all kinds of things with the idea that they're helping and doing God's work. But I find if you just keep it with the definition and let yourself surrender, that's going to look more like real help. So let's go back to that breath. The breath is my function. Let's see if we can connect to causeless joy. We won't try to make it happen. We'll just be in life without the thinking mind putting its filter on us. Oh, that's what we need to eat next. Oh, that's what we need to do today. Oh, that's what we did an hour ago. Uh-oh, made that mistake. No. Just let it go. Just let it go. Not important. Not for this moment. This moment, we're going to be in the now. How are you sitting? Don't change it. Just notice. Is your posture terrible as mine often is? Who says it's terrible? It's just what it is. If you're sitting up straight in a good meditation posture, that isn't any better than being slumped, if that's not what is. We treasure whatever is. The minute we judge, we're starting to get into trouble, egoic trouble. So let's welcome whatever our posture is. Welcome the judgment if you judge yourself. Allow that to be the now. And I notice that I'm breathing more fully when I just allow. Happiness has been given to me. That means I have to move out of the happiness of the world. What is this causeless joy? Let's fill our bellies and our chest with air. And then exhale all that air. Make a little sound. You're all alone. Think of how self-conscious we are about bodily sounds. How ridiculous. What are we covering up? What are we really guilty about? Sounds and smells? Or our thoughts? Are we concerned that anyone will hear our thoughts? Now that our bellies are full and we're relaxed, let's move on out into the room, into the space of the room. I see we don't have a lot of time, but I want to move from the space of the room to the space outside and realize right in this moment that the walls of my house or my apartment are artificial barriers to the love that is everywhere. The air, the space is the representative of the field of love, the field of quantum energy, of all that is possible. Notice that when we step out of our bodies, it's so much easier to connect to neutral energy. Neutral energy is where that causeless joy is. It's the oneness. It belongs to us all. It's the same. And guess what? Our I is the same. Our me appears very different. Our eyes are all the same. They're the same humanity, even if they're a different energetic composition from the years we've lived or from what nature has put into us. Let's all just see, is that causeless joy available? I found it. I bet you can too. Now let's claim it. Let's call it what the Course in Miracles calls happiness. Maybe we can leave the word happiness for the things that we receive in the world. After all, why should we not enjoy those as well? But know that true happiness, the happiness that doesn't go away, that is always available, is this causeless joy. Thank you for being with me today. Bye for now.